Well, hello there, everybody. How are y'all doing? So good to see you. Yeah, it's just jamming out to a little bit of Allman Brothers, man. I think it's one of the best live albums they out there, period. Was phenomenal. So how is everybody? Speaking favor over us all, nothing missing, nothing broken. You speak it, you believe it, you create it. Sometimes you really don't need to believe it. You'll still do it. So good to see everyone. There I am there. That's a cool thing. So we'll just continue as I get right over there, getting the bus out. So Gilbert, you got to stop falling on the shoulder, man. Well, we just send favor your way, brother. And healing. gotta stop that stuff. We love you, man. So hello, chat room. What's up? Hey, Gaia, Blazing River, Mary Winds. How are you? Rage Against the Machine. Rick, DC. What's up? Jack A. Hello. Dave Sullivan, Penn Greedy. How are you? Joyce, good to see you, dear. Nina, how are you? Lovely. Hello, Monkey Experiment. How are you? Good to see you. Saul, good to see you as well. Grace, hello, Lori. So, a lot of interesting, I don't know, comments were beautiful. It's interesting. One person wrote, this is some of the most powerful instructions. She, as a practicing witch, is what she said. She said that this is the type of knowledge that few ever hear about, much less know. Thank you. She said that as well, many won't get it. The curse, if we can understand the dynamics of how it works, and that's what we're doing, and we'll I don't think you ever wrap it up, but we're certainly going to continue on this journey. Someone wrote as well, odd how a so-called God that says it's pure love can curse. Yeah, that's one I can't figure out. It's like, well, okay, wait a minute. You say you're that, but I do know. As one becomes more aware and you get into this knowledge, I mean, this is deep. This goes inside. Most people don't understand curses. What they understand is by urban legend, myths, misconceptions across the board. And I would say this, that it seems in this realm, it would appear in the next one as well, that there are those entities that, well, again, they have this knowledge of what's really going on. And I got this sense, it's like I can't really see through the glass is all fogged up, but I know. See, I understand how the blessing works. That's not a mystery to me. That's why I speak favor all the time. I don't know if you ever master it. Someone wrote to me, Master Steiger. I don't know what that means. I'm just a simple guy. But the curses, it's a strange power. And it's odd when you think about it, because angels neither nor demons can curse a human. So how did this God that we read right there, and we're going to read more of it, we're going to get really into it, how could it curse? It's interesting. The fact that curses exist and that the vast majority of humans, and it's by intuition, maybe it's something that's inside of us because we know this, they don't understand it, they fear it. I mean, seriously, if you were to walk up to someone in an office and you say to them, "You're cursed," what do you think their reaction is going to be? Most likely it's going to be immediacy of fear. What do you mean I'm feared? What do you mean I'm cursed? What were you, where did that, and it starts because it so hits our psyche, that our cognitive dissonance, I would say, that you speak to someone, you don't even have to say a curse to them. You just tell them they are cursed. And you set off a psychological chain reaction into their head. And this gets into the spiritual aspect of it as well. It appears our spirits are very much aware of curses. I guess you could say to a degree that many who discover that Gnostic knowledge of understanding deep how that fear, why that fear is there, would tell within itself. Hey, Elderberry, what's up? Good to see you. William. Lilith, how are you, my dear? Voices over by Brown Butterfly. Peace. I love the handles on these. But anyway, I found this interesting, and I wanted to bring this out as we get into our book. So this is Steiner, and I thought this was interesting. He wrote, "We need to be awake and alive for the sake of humanity. If anthrophilosophy is to fulfill its purpose, its prime task must be to rouse people and make them really wake up. Merely knowing what is going on in the physical world and knowing the laws that human minds are able to perceive as operative in this world is no more than being asleep in a higher sense. Humanity is only full awake when people are able to develop notions and ideas of the world of the spirit." We explore that here all the time. We're a part of that. And for some reason, we are wiped of the knowledge. You can't take it out of our spirits. It's there. And maybe that's kind of the goal, right? Rediscovering? I don't know. Anyway, he wrote, "This is all around us, just as air and water and stars and the sun and the moon are all around us. When we are physically asleep, we are wholly given up to the internal processes that go on in the body during the night and have no idea of anything in the physical world around us. We are asleep in exactly the same way when we are wholly given up to the physical environment and to that world and the laws of the intellect, and have no idea of the world of spirit that is all around us." Spot on. What can you say? Steiner had a way, didn't he? But it's true. And that's the thing about it is that I'm finding for myself, and I was telling my wife this, I don't have the need for a lot of sleep. And thus, you're always reading, listening, growing. Thanks for the thumbs up. Feed the machine, feed the machine. So, I don't know. I mean, if all this crap is coming, isn't that a curse? Is not the apocalypse, is not this catastrophe whole idea, is this not a curse? I mean, you could say, well, no, Wayne, it's, physical law and physical reality. Okay, I get that. But, if you're creating a sun, how would you create a sun? I don't know. Would it be necessary for, events? And you look at the landscape of war. I mean, you've got leaders in this country that are hell bent in bringing World War III to full fruition. Lloyd just threatened Congress the other day and said, listen, if you don't pony up the money, I'm going to be sending your uncles. I'm going to be sending your brother-in-laws. I'm going to be sending your nephews and your sons to fight the Russians. What? Isn't that a curse? And if you listen to the modern day politician, they're master at sending curses. I mean, when you lie to someone, aren't you cursing them? I'm just saying. And so it's very apparent that we as a species seem to have this thing that we emulate that which we are. And if you look at it from the Bible perspective, as we read yesterday, we are cursed. This fucking God that the world worships fucking cursed us. Now, that's messed up. There ain't no love there. If you're telling me that's perfection, pure love, you can kiss my white ass. It's not. It's the opposite. And for a part of this species of which I'm here. I ain't liking this. It puts us at a distinct disadvantage from here on out. That curse is still in effect. That's messed up. And look at the world. The world works in curses. The church, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism. It's all tied into the curse. Now, one could say that probably the most powerful status in magic is one who has a full knowledge and understanding and mastery of that which is a curse. Is it truly the elementals? Because when you think about a curse, when a curse is put into effect, there are laws of nature that are being impacted here. Now, how does that work? If you have the laws of nature itself, the foundation of the basis of reality in this realm, so are they complicit in this? Or is this merely a means in which to siphon off the power in such a manner that most humans are completely unaware of? And the more that they curse, the more power is siphoned off. I mean, if you have a curse such as the Bible, I mean, that's truly multi-generational. So, again, you have politicians that speak curses. It's odd that you don't hear any of them speaking blessings. There is one who will go without naming, but all the rest, It's interesting. Again, isn't lying speaking a curse? They're using it as a tool of deception. Isn't a curse a deception? Altering the reality of that which was supposed to be? I just asked the questions. That's all I can say. I just saw what Rick said. Isn't it odd how many parents curse their own kids? You goddamn loser. You fucking will never amount to anything. You were a mistake. I mean, yeah. Curse. You curse your own flesh and blood. How messed up is that? I have been in congregations in multiple churches where curses are more widely used than anything else. Deception. If you don't do this, this is going to happen. That's a fucking curse. No blessing to that at all. You could say that, well, maybe curses are used for behavioral modification. To what end? I guess is what I would say. I mean, think about that. How many of you parents have cursed your kids? You ought to repent for that. Tell them you're sorry. Take it back. Not saying that anyone here is doing that, just putting it out there, you know? And then Paul says, right, how many kids have cursed their parents? I mean, you think about an adolescent and all the chemical changes taking place in their body. You know, adolescence is not really human. You know, there's powerful forces at work there within adolescents, teenagers. Joe, I'm just pointing out the facts. He says, if lying about reality is a curse, couldn't that be the curse that the Bible God put on the earth in Genesis? He cursed it. All right, let's get into our reading. Someone wrote, please, please, please continue this. And hey, I dig it, man. I'm right there with you. So let's get back into our reading on this. So does a curse have a statute of limitations? How long does it last? It says that depends on the curse. Some are short, some last centuries, most fade away somewhere in between and much closer to the short end. Most curses in this book tell you how long they last, but if they don't, you can usually decide for yourself. It's interesting. Just specify how long-lived the curse is to be used when you lay it out. Think long and hard before you stipulate that a curse should last forever or even for a long time. And you know, and I can't help but think about this. As I'm understanding more the nuances of a curse, it's not that the fact that you would want to actually, you know, engage in that. I'm getting the idea, or at least the thought, that this is a powerful substance. You see, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Well, I'm getting this idea on this curses because, again, you're altering physical law here. And if a curse, and a blessing does the same thing. I mean, you've got two opposite ends of the spectrum that basically are running concurrently with each other. Now, if we can get a handle on this, you become a really powerful individual. No, let me just say this. I think you're graduating into a different classification of a god. You see, I think if you're going to actually progress as a god, a goddess, whatever, it's all the same. If you understand this, you're a powerful, there's no angel, there's no demon that would dare to cross you. None. Think about that, folks. Let's go on. Common questions here. Does my victim have to hear my curse to make it work? Does he at least have to know about it? No and no. In most cases, your cursee won't know he or she's been hit. He or she will think it's just a bad flu or a bad patch or a bad life. Unless otherwise specified, you shouldn't tell them either. Not ever. Resist the urge to hint, to flaunt it, to say, I told you so, to spit in their face. Haven't you already just done that? Really, being an adult about this all. As a general rule, you shouldn't tell anyone that you're casting a curse or that you already have. Cursing is a lonely art. And I will say this to the world leaders, you best start thinking differently, because as this knowledge goes out, I may be a small channel, but the knowledge will spread. You may not be as in much of a position as you think you are. We're learning. What curses won't I find here in this book? This is important. These days, we can settle our differences with gentler versions of the ancient maledictions. This means you won't find recipes here to wither crops, sicken livestock, or dry up their milk or harm any animals at all. Never curse an animal anyway. Now, this is interesting because isn't that what we saw repeatedly? I mean, I come from Christianity. I'm no longer a Christian. I disavowed that religion, but I would use this because this is the power of my God. Never realizing that my God was a God of curses. All right. Isn't a curse against a fluffy so much as a nudge? Don't curse animals. You won't find incantations here for the complete eradication of anything or anyone. Nothing here will bring on death. If for no other reason, think of the paperwork. Neither will we be summoning Lucifer and his entourage or any dark spirit at all. Let's just call those netherworld boys gray. You can't use this book to disfigure or age your enemy, children, make pregnant women miscarriage, make ships hit shoals or houses catching on fire. These days, we don't need to settle our differences by killing people or turning them into lemmings or seeing their skin peel off. We don't need to steal their stuff either. Getting back what you're owed is one thing. Just keep in mind that people can be ruined or just plain bothered by many things other than bankruptcy, unless, of course, it's bankruptcy that they deserve. I still say the most powerful person that I know is one that doesn't have to revert to a curse. I've had some men do me really, really, really wrong. Hurt deeply. I never sought vengeance, never sought revenge. Why? I know instinctively. I'm a God, I'm a master, and I don't have to be manipulated by my mere emotions. There's a wisdom that supersedes any emotion. That's how we know we're gods. Sometimes not speaking a curse is probably more powerful than actually speaking a curse. There's these forces, folks. It's the elementals. It may be even higher than that. I sense for many of us, we're like in the room of, 100 quadrillion volts. And we're looking at this thing, trying to figure it out. He says, but you will find here the sort of spells that sour milk, peel paint, shatter china, split seams, zippers, bra straps, drops pants, loosens heels inappropriately. I wonder how many wardrobe, well, easy for me to say, malfunctions we've seen on stage. Was that a curse in action? I mean, this is some interesting stuff. You'll also find the sort of spells that make doorbells and car alarms stick at 4 a.m, that make dogs eat homework and ink disappear, especially on contracts, that make men impotent and bad employees leave, that break brothels on or average avenge them once they're broken, that make or take money when warranted, and on and on and on. In their way, these were ancient curses too, and they operated side by side with curses that dropped folks dead. I mean, isn't that what this God did to us? Cursed us with death. I can show you exactly where he said, the days of man shall not exceed 120 years. That's a curse. So what's the Savior about? Didn't the Savior come from the very thing that cursed us? What, it's going to remove the curse now? Well, wouldn't that be a disobedience to God? Because God cursed us. And what, are you going to come in and reverse the curse? It gets complicated. You won't find curses here for the myriad things in life we call life, the things we all need to deal with, let go of, and just get over. The guy who cuts you off in traffic, for instance, or any jerk d'argent. But the guy who leaves the scene of an accident, the guy who won't pay up, the villain who breaks his word, the claim adjusters who adjust your claim to zero, these are all fair game. I like. A word on one more difference between ancient curses and their modern adaptations. As we've said, the intent's the same, but the punch is lighter in the modern curse. And often, so are the materials. Many old world curses were cast with elementals, strong ingredients like blood and urine, for example. When you see wine or sherry and stale beer in these pages, we're really talking about something more basic that's always more powerful than the substitute, your choice. We've talked about the blood covenants. The blood. I knew that. There's a song. There is power. Yeah. In the precious blood of the Lamb. Yeah. Think about this, man. If that ain't a God spell. I mean, you're conditioned for blood. I don't like blood. So I don't have tattoos. I have a fear of needles, and I faint, or did for many years, at the sight of blood. Just don't dig it. And there ain't no way, there ain't any kind of amount of money. I'm sitting in some chair and letting a needle in a bloodletting ritual. Not going to do it. Now, if you got them, that's cool. I'm just telling you why I don't. So, very interesting. Urine. How to do a show on urine. I mean, topic for another matter. And finally, please note, because spirits can be tricky to handle, spells to invoke them are mostly limited here to a few easygoing types. The ancients called up the spirits who were rather more dazzling and dangerous. Now, I would tell the author, they're back. But she says, we're not doing that here. How you're going to explain it to the ER? Well, there's a lot of things to that. All right, so curses then and now. I think this is legitimate. It's part of that knowledge. It says the Bible speaks of curses, saying a righteous one is more powerful than a godless one. So what are you, godless? Hell no, you're a god. How can you be godless? That doesn't make sense. But anyway, its first curse is the one God cast on the serpent. How did that happen? Then God cursed the ground, and then Adam and Eve, whom he cast out of the garden. His curse demoted Lucifer to fallen angel. Even today, the Roman Catholic Church has a place for maledictions, for exorcisms, for purifications. But as part of the global system of religious and cultural beliefs, magic predates Christianity by a long shot. Did you hear me that? Christianity is the new kid on the block. It's still wiping its ass. It's not potty trained yet. Doubt me? Look at the world today. All cultures and religions use curses. The Celts, the Hindus, the Haitians, the Africans and the African Americans, Native American, Australian Aboriginals, the Inuit, East Indian, Occidentals, ancient Greece, Rome, Europeans, Middle Easterns of all kinds. It's possible that Buddhists, Bahá'ís, and Quakers are the exceptions. There are even curses in the Quran and in the Talmud. Why? They all say they worship the same God of Abraham. I don't know. Here are a few famous curses. The curse of Pharaoh. When the boy, King Tutankhamun's tomb was opened in the Luxor's Valley of the Kings along the Nile in 1922, British newspaper reported something ominous, an inscription near the tomb door that promised death on swift wings to him that touches the tomb of the Pharaoh. Howard Carter, a British archaeologist, found the tomb's entrance. Typically British, typically unflappable, he raised an eyebrow and carried on. 15 feet down into Tut's pyramid, Carter's evacuators found a large passageway with stairs that led to a sealed stone door plastered with the Pharaoh's seal. That finally was enough to make him call for backup. In this case, his underwriter, Lord Carnarvon, at dusk on November 24, both men attended the opening of the sealed door. 2 days of rubble shoveling and another stairway later, they found a second door with more royal seals. Workers cut a hole in it. Carter, who went in to live a long life, who wanted to have a long life, you'll be wondering about this by now, looked in by the light of the guttering candle and called back that he could make out wonderful things, though not Tut's mummy. Getting to that in the innermost anteroom took them more dusty months. Now, Carnarvon, not Carter, opened this inner door on February 17, 1923, only to die 48 days later from complications of septicemia that developed when an infected mosquito bite while shaving. Their nurse caring for Carnarvon died promptly as well, and his brother committed suicide. Another team member who'd helped open the mortuary room died early too, as did the curators from the Met and the Louvre. One had helped open the innermost door, and one had visited the inner tomb afterwards. Don't know about you, but I think that's a curse. And isn't it interesting? The curse would have never been in action had it been violated. I could think of Hermetic law, of cause and effect. I mean, there's all sorts of things that are going on in your head. You can think about this. But yet, what I said earlier, this thing about the curse, no, you don't want to live by that. I mean, no. But it's a powerful weapon to have in your arsenal. Powerful. The Kennedy curse. Everyone knows about the untimely deaths of JFK and RFK. What you might not know is that their oldest sister, misdiagnosed as mentally handicapped, was lobotomized and institutionalized for life. JFK and Jackie suffered a miscarriage, the loss of their first child, a stillborn daughter, and the loss of their last child, a newborn son. Jackie herself died prematurely of lymphoma. Her nephew, Edward Jr., son of Ted Kennedy, lost part of his leg to bone cancer at the age of 12. And her first son, JFK Jr., died at the controls of his plane, along with his wife and her sister. I was in New York City when that happened. JFK's junior cousin, Anthony Radziwiłł, died of cancer just a month later. JFK's oldest brother and another of his sisters died young in separate air crashes. In Europe in the 1940s, and Alexander Onassis, Jackie's stepson, died in a plane crash in 1973. Some people will tell you the Onassis family has a curse of its own. And remember years and years ago, but a question in one of our groups that we used to get together and discussion was that if your life was, well, let's say you were well satisfied within your life. You weren't rich, but then again, you weren't poor. And life as it is was basically good. Now, if the opportunity presented itself where you were to receive a large sum of money, a large sum of money, would you take it? Now, the caveat here is that you don't know that this money is within itself a curse, as most money is. Now, that may sound weird to you, but most money is cursed. Why? Look what it's printed on. What does it say on it? So would you take that? Would you take the money knowing that this is going to curse your life? Be interesting. Read that. Can't see the chat room, but make a comment on it. 1969 Chappaquiddick seems to have repeated itself in 1973 when Joe Kennedy, RFK's oldest, was the driver in a crash that left a woman passenger paralyzed. Another RFK son, Patrick, crashed his car in Capitol Hill in 2006 and went into rehab. He'd been there 20 years earlier for cocaine addiction. RFK Jr. was arrested for heroin possession, and his brother David died in an overdose in Palm Beach Hotel in the room in 1984. On the Onassis side, Christina, Jackie's stepdaughter, died a few years later, also as a result of drug abuse. And then the legal troubles. Nearly 20 years ago, JFK's nephew stood a trial in a public date rape trial in Palm Beach. He was acquitted. In 1997, Michael Kennedy, RFK's son, was accused of adultery and statutory rape and died on the last day of the year in an Aspen skiing accident. Ethel Kennedy's nephew, Michael Shackle, was convicted in 2002 of murdering his childhood friend when he was a teenager. I don't know. They ain't finding too many blessings in all that, huh? Curse 27. You've made it to age 27. Congrats. Now run quickly towards 28. Order your cake and gather your friends ahead of time, especially if you're a musician. For rock stars, that 27th birthday can be a tough act to follow. Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Brian Jones, Janis Joplin, Al Wilson of Canned Heat, Ron Pigman McKernan of the Grateful Dead, Graham Parsons, Steve Gaines, Leonard Skinner, Kurt Cobain, all died at 27. Wow. The Hope Diamond, said it to be so ill-fated that whoever touches it dies. The Hope is the color of sapphires and the largest blue diamond known. If you've ever had a chance at the Smithsonian to see it, it's quite something to see. And it's been cut and cut again, ending up in a broken blue heart. Stolen during the French Revolution, it surfaced in 1830 in England, bought by a London banker, Thomas Hope. All his family died in poverty, as did at least one of the stone's subsequent owners. The blue heart was then bought by American jeweler Cartier, who caught the society girl Evelyn Walsh's eye with it by telling her it was unlucky. Some folks just can't leave well enough alone, and Evelyn was one such person. When she married Ned McLean, heir to the Washington Post, the couple squandered their family's wedding settlements on the stone, and Evelyn had it blessed. On the way to the blessing service, a tremendous storm blew up. Lightning hit the church, and Evelyn's maid fainted. But when the party exited to the street, they met sunshine and calm. Soon, though, their firstborn was hit by a car and killed. They drowned their sorrows in drink, and Evelyn took up morphine. Headed for bankruptcy, Ned was put into a home, and the post was auctioned off. At 24, Evelyn's daughter died of a drug overdose. Evelyn herself died of pneumonia shortly after, and the jeweler, Harry Winston, bought up her jewels. The Hope left the Walsh estate on Friday and stayed the weekend with J. Edgar Hoover. Perhaps he tried it out with a little black dress. You know, he was a cross-dresser. Harry Winston donated the Hope to the Smithsonian. The man who delivered it had his leg crushed in a traffic accident. Then his wife died young and his house caught fire. Like, no, don't want it. Thank you. Hitler witches. Making the most of the Nazi high command's belief in the supernatural, Britain's security service, MI5, staged a sorcery ritual in the New Forest in central South England to put the Nazis off their invasion plan. I didn't know this. You folks in Britain, did anyone know this? So MI5 getting into sorcery. I guess they learned some of that from Crowley, right? The site wasn't chosen arbitrarily. New Forest tradition held that the area had been home to an ancient Wicca coven ever since Rufus, the Norman king, died there. The witches' ritual, as it came to be known, was performed on Lammas Eve, 1940, when the tides and the time of year were right, and the moon was in its last days of waning. Always an ideal time to get rid of things. Learning some stuff here, huh? But what none knew about MI5 was that the service was only copying an authentic ceremony that had been staged earlier in the war by real occultists at a site that was also said to be targeted for invasion. The Ashdown Forest in East Sussex, across the pond, meanwhile, American witches helped out too. In 1943, meeting in Greenwich Village, that sounds like something out of Rosemary's Baby, involved a coven of crone knitting, crocheting, and casually casting anti-Nazi spell. Folks, can we get a handle on this? I didn't know this, but it somehow doesn't surprise me. Look at what the witches did 100 years ago. I wonder how much witchcraft and occultism prevented even more deaths. World War II was an ultimate curse. And sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. Use a curse against a curse. Historians say that just two events stopped the invasion. First, an air campaign of bombing, and then the Fuhrer's unexpected and unexplained change of plans to move east and invade Russia. Was this how the magic manifested? The Superman curse. 2006, Superman Returns almost didn't get cast, but instead, Superman's role actor, but the role was a role that actors would die for. Not if the movie's cursed, it seems. Ashton Kutcher turned down the starring role, and Jude Law turned down the supporting role. The movie almost didn't get made either. A producer broke ribs in a mugging. The editor fell through a window and punctured a lung. The cameraman fractured his skull and severed a fingertip falling down a flight of stairs. Even Kate Bosworth, the latest Lois Lane, is reported to have said that the Superman curse came between her and longtime love Orlando Bloom. Cast of the earlier Superman movies feared no better. The fate of Christopher Reeves and his wife are best known. Reeves' co-star, Margaret Kidder, suffered a nervous breakdown, and Richard Pryor developed multiple sclerosis. Marlon Brando, the Man of Steel's father, Jor-El, had a daughter hang herself and a son jailed for 10 years. Lee Quigley, who played the infant Superman in the same production, developed a fondness for sniffing glue and died at the age of 14. In the TV series Smallville, the Superman spinoff, an experienced stuntman suffered multiple fractures and internal injuries in a freak accident. Another stuntman was sliced up when he fell through a window that was supposed to shatter on contact, but didn't. Lane Smith, the newspaper boss Perry White in the TV's Lois Clark, another spinoff, died suddenly from Lou Gehrig's disease, and Jeff Loeb, who wrote the comics and the Smallville series, lost a son to cancer. Even a Superman-themed roller coaster may have ridden the Superman curse. Its brakes on the Ride of Steel in Massachusetts failed in 2001, injuring several riders, and 2 other rides of steel have suffered catastrophic accidents. But the curse reaches back further. George Reeves, the Superman of the TV series, that's the one I remember, and several movies in the 1950s were found dead of a gunshot wound. He was a heavy drinker who threatened to kill himself. One night, in the midst of a house party, he went upstairs and apparently did so. But his prints weren't on the gun. And he'd been having an affair with the wife of an MGM exec. Those details were ignored or overlooked, and the death was ruled a suicide. Whew. Who set the Superman curse in motion? It's attributed to a pair who created the comic book character back in 1938 and sold the rights outright for $130 between them. Wow. I mean, we could go for an hour just discussing, well, is this cause and effect? I mean, what's going on here? Again, to move fates of individuals in such a manner. I mean, it gets back to the question, I guess you could pose, is that, well, was this ultimately their destiny anyway? You'll never know. But there seems to be extraordinary circumstances that would dictate that there's something else afoot here. The curse of the billy goat. Just one of an impressive volume of curses that explain underperformances, failures, and extraordinary bad luck in sports. The billy goat curse concerns the woes of the Chicago Cubs. The team hasn't won a World Series since 1908 and hasn't even reached a series since 1945. It's the longest sports drought in the history. What gives? Billy Sanus, that's what. The Greek immigrant owned a tavern next to Wrigley Field and attended one day with his pet goat, Murphy, from whom he held a ticket for a box seat next to his own. At first, things went well. The game that day was against Detroit, and Murphy paraded the field wearing a coat that read, "We got Detroit's goat." But then, urged by the field security, had to turn around a losing game by eating his ticket. Murphy declined. It was a slippery slope for the goat, and before long, the Cubs owner had both Sinus and Murphy thrown out. Sinus, answered the insult with his infamous curse. The Cubs lost the game and eventually the World Series. Who stinks now? Sinus wrote to Wrigley from Greece, where he retired and where he died in 1970. No word on the whereabouts of Murphy. Well, got a feeling that it was, barbecued. Sinus's nephew has been brought out to the field repeatedly, complete with a goat to break the curse, but still it rules. Before he died, Sinus said that in order to lift the curse, the Cubs organization had to show a true, sincere fondness for goats, inviting them into Wrigley Field because they liked them, not just because they generated publicity. Sinus liked his own goat a lot, having recused it when it fell off a truck and limped into his tavern one day. When they were still friends of Wrigley's Field, Sinus and Murphy both had season tickets. Wow. All right, let's get into some others. Perfecting your technique. Those are some strange stories. I mean, sure, a lot of opinions on what good, but wow. Before you start, let's just say this. Would you buy a car that's the sales rep said, the damn thing's cursed, that's why the price is so low? Are you masterful enough to reverse the curse, even if it wasn't cursed? Or is it truly cursed? I don't know. A curse is like a recipe. Read and reread it until you understand it. You don't usually have to memorize invocations. For the most part, it's okay to read them from the book. Check the "You Need" section at the top and assemble everything before you start. Make sure you're in a quiet place where you won't be interrupted unless the curse specifies otherwise. I think as we get deeper in this, I think we can begin to peel the layers back. When you're ready, take a few moments to focus. Think about what you want to accomplish. Think about what you deserve. If you deserve what the curse promises, and if you deserve to get it from your cursee, then you can begin. On delivery, be calm and deliberate in your movements and your speech without being stiff. Don't rush. If you get nervous, stop until you calm down. That's saying something. If you're feeling those symptoms, you're plugged into something that, If you make a mistake, simply go back and correct yourself. If you stumble over your invocations, be sorry, back up, and start again. on threes. Most often, you'll say and do things 3 times. As far as cursing methods go, it is almost never enough. 3 is a staple of curses and puts your best foot forward. As the Simpsons put it, revenge is a dish best served 3 times. Sometimes spells are triple cast over a series of 3 nights, weeks, or months, or at the beginning, middle, or the end of a single month. On left is the direction and the side of the body, though not the brain, that holds the power in casting spells. Do you know that? So you'll generally do things with your left hand. Burn documents by beginning at their lower left corner, and so on. When you're instructed to turn counterclockwise, that is, to your left. On writing, no pencil, please. Use plain ink, black if you have it. Fountain pen would be lovely. On gender, most curses written to be cast on women can also be cast on men or vice versa, unless the directions say otherwise. On timing, as a general rule, when you want to start something, wait for a new moon. End things under a full one. When the moon begins to wane, according to Nordic tradition, the best spell casting days of the year are Christmas Day and Midsummer's Day, the equinox, June 21st, or whenever. Don't make strangers of the remaining 3 equinoxes either. It might be prudent to wait for one or another of them if you can. Get an idea that this is not something that's just done like that. On candles, many curses require you to light candles at night in dim light, sometimes in complete darkness, and to snuff them out when you're through. Flames may be gutted when spirits are invoked, or they may not. Don't worry about it. How your candle behaves signifies nothing whatsoever. Use the color specified, usually white, but sometimes red. Red candles are the candles of love, though sometimes their use may seem paradoxical. Black candles aren't called for in any spell here because they're next to impossible to find. True. But if you can find them, snap up the lot and use them when you're doing something splendidly magnificent. Excuse me. Been reading too long. But never use a black candle in a spell involving a relationship, even if it's a relationship you're trying to ruin. Light a candle with a match, never a lighter. Extinguish a flame by pinching the wick between the thumb and 3rd finger of your left hand. Never use your right hand, or worse, a snuffer, and never simply blow out the flame. Your cursing candle isn't a birthday cake. For safety, always set candles in holders or fasten them solidly to small saucers with a little melted wax. If a candle nevertheless falls in the commission of a malediction, simply stop, set it upright, and pick up where you left off. If you invoked a spirit, then sing him and splatter him with hot wax. By all means, apologize to him. Never leave a candle burning when you're unfinished. Well, everyone knows that, unless the spell specifies otherwise. You can reuse your candles for magic, but not for household use. Keep your candle drawers separate. Wow, almost time. I'm going to keep on this. I think this is fun. I don't know about you, but I certainly am learning much more than I had anticipated. And again, these type of videos, they don't make, the YouTube top playing list. They're probably glad they don't either. But interesting, isn't it? I mean, like I said, I have not seen that much on actual curses, and particularly dialogues of where you really explore what this is about. I mean, it gives you the idea then, if a religion is founded on a curse by a entity that speaks curses, how is that ever going to end up good? No, no, we'll continue on this on Monday. I think it's the reason I'm just getting a sense that this is important for all of us to know. Many of us who practice the arts themselves, we know a lot of this. And I think, again, it's just merely giving a clear understanding of what we're dealing with. There's obviously a deeper part of this in understanding how the elements are engaged in this, because to have what we were just reading, like for the Kennedys or other bloodlines, for these consistent things, death, bankruptcy, loss of it's you got to be thinking to now, did they know that they were under a curse? Doesn't seem like they went to any steps to counter it. And that's the other part of this equation, is that, all right, so let's identify that someone's tried to put a curse. I'm convinced that someone tried to put a curse on this group, backfired, and it makes you think, for the forces to work. And if a force is worked by a spoken curse, can some force that's greater than, let's say in a voice, then direct that energy to be the counterintuitive of the curse itself? I think so. Yeah, I've got a few black candles in there. I don't use them that. Gaia, you're welcome. And thank you, Jackie. Right back at you. New Yoda. Lauren, thank you. Grace, you're the best. Thank you. We're going to continue on this. I think this is good information for this group. I know this. It in some way, and maybe it's just myself, but it certainly empowers us. I mean, wow. My mind is just a spinning here on thousands of different variables that we're applying this knowledge. It's magic. I mean, if the blessing is magic, magic being that which changes an individual's reality, it seems like the curse is the same thing. Different polarity, right? So having the knowledge of how to use both expertly, wow. Now I can hear the argument, well, that's not pure love. Maybe not. For me, I don't know what pure love is. Never seen it. So I can only deal with that which I know. You may have a different opinion, but Rick says, I have a protection bubble, so curses bounces off, mixing. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. Well, thank you, voiceovers. Thank you. Yeah, that's interesting, Joe, about how the curse would stick on, because I'm thinking the same thing. It's like, so what's going on here? Now, I'm aware of family curses, but I'm also aware, I was taught by Lester Summerall, that these curses are primarily ruled over by spirits, that they're engaged into the unseen realms, moving energies. And that's my point. Something has to be moving this energy in order for it to be effective. Now, if you're not aware of that, you're going to get bowled over. I mean, hang out the white flag, say, all right, but yet. And so you would then have the knowledge to be able to confront those forces. Wow. And I'm telling you, I don't see how you cannot say that this doesn't count on the other side. Woo! I don't know about you, but it makes me happy. And, I think this group here, listen, we speak favor over us all the time. I mean, it's like the shields. I mean, we never allow the shield to get weak. And I believe that that is an insulating bubble. You can't come against favor. It zaps it out. Okay. Hey, Claudette. Yeah. She says, I've always felt a protective force around me. Bingo. Yeah. Well, thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt the driving. Oh, thank you, Jeanette. That's so sweet of you. Yeah, hit the like button on the way out and share this. I mean, this is amazing. Gnosis. I'm digging it. All right. Nothing missing, nothing broken, Jackie. You are absolutely right. All right. Much love, everyone. See you on Monday. Have yourselves a great weekend. I mean, it's the weekend and the beginning of the week. So either way, make it count. So we'll get together again on Monday.